Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the GameDev.tv community podcast. I'm your host, KB, and this podcast brings you the audio experience of GameDev.tv. Now, let's get right into the podcast.
I'm Luis Quintero, or Luis Quintero en español, in Spanish, and I'm a music composer, a music producer, and I have made music for, Studio Furukawa, Pixel Car Racer, games that have over 10 million downloads and installs, and recently I have partnered with Amanote, which is basically the publisher of these games like Magic Tales, Piano Tales, and it's so awesome. So I'm very happy to be here.
And we're happy to have you here.
Mhm.
Now, let's go way back. What is your first memory of creating music?
Creating music. My first memory, I think, it's when I was in third grade. Literally creating music. Because before creating music, I played instruments. I played like ukulele. It's not a ukulele. It's called cuatro in Venezuela.
Okay.
So it was like an ukulele, and but that wasn't creating music, right? That is not creating music. So my
That's
first
still-
memory creating music.
That's true.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
And my first memory creating music was when I discovered this software of music production in the computer of my brother, because here's the funny story. Before of this, putting a little bit more of background, I really wanted to play piano and play the guitar, but my mother couldn't afford that. So we were very in a very poor family,
Mm-hmm.
and so we had only money for food. So my mother couldn't afford that. So that's why I started playing cuatro, which is a very, very like ukulele kind of instrument. So, but I get bored. I was like 7 years old, so I don't know. I get bored about that, and then I started, producing music, because I discovered a software of music production in the computer of my brother. So it was like, oh my goodness, you can make music with this, and it was really cool. So my first memory was like when I created music in that software.
Mm-hmm. So once you created that first, like, let's say soundtrack or music in the software, you like fell in love and you were like, I want to do this forever.
Yes, yes, forever.
Yeah, you were like, hey, this is so cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
So then how did you learn how to do it? You just messed around with it, or did you take any like YouTube videos or courses?
Well, I was 9 when I started, so it was very interesting. I didn't know, and I started to just mess around with the program, with the software. And then of course I really was interested, and I learned from YouTube mostly. So being super thankful to YouTube.
Yeah, no, YouTube's the best. So much free
Yeah.
content. You can learn anything you want as long as you have discipline. Just boom, there it is. Now, how long did you spend like practicing? Would you spend like all day because it was like you're young and you're like, this is fun. Let me just do it nonstop.
That's a really cool question. So when I was in when I started, I was in school, and then after that I was in high school.
Mhm.
So after high school or after school, I was going to produce music. So it was like maybe 3 hours a day, and when I was not in school, I was producing music.
Okay, so that's a lot of hours. Yeah. Did anybody at school always like, hey, he's a music guy. Like, can you make music for us? Or
That is a cool question, because I didn't tell anybody
really?
until yes, I didn't tell anybody until I was like very recent, like maybe almost 2 years ago. Like
Okay.
I didn't tell anybody, and the reason because of that is because I don't come from like a very video game kind of environment. So it was like I knew I wasn't going to be so appreciated, so it was like but in the end I just uh started with my personal brand and stuff, and then everybody knew.
Mhm. And how old are you?
I'm 19.
19. Look
Oh
at
my gosh.
dang. Look at that. That's crazy. See,
Oh,
I saw some stuff and I was like, you seem young, but I was like, you're also doing all these great things. So I was like, I don't know.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No problem. So, so you're out of high school? Are you in college, or are you just doing your own thing?
Awesome. So no, I'm after high school. I didn't go to college, and I don't plan to go there.
I love that answer. And, but
I mean, no
yeah,
need,
goes out.
really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No need.
I mean, yeah, if you got YouTube and you've mastered it and you've pretty good and you have your own personal brand, I mean, like it's pretty much just you're good and you're set. Just go after it.
Yeah.
So now, what did you start doing? Where you like? When did you start doing work for other people?
Almost like almost 2 years. So 1 year and a half. I
Okay.
think I started like getting more into the game dev culture and more with game development and with the game developers. But before of that, I started Vital Landscape, and I started Vital Landscape when it was like 2015 maybe.
Mhm.
So I just didn't knew that you could get paid making music for games. I just really liked to make music for video games and this kind of chip tune sounds, and I really love that. So I just didn't knew that you could be paid. So then with the time, this big company, big studio, which is called Studio Furukawa, the creators of Pixel Car Racer, they told us that they liked a lot our music. They wanted a soundtrack. So, and what I mean by we were two in Bachelor Landscape. I produced the music, and my brother make the graphics and art, visual art.
Mhm.
I think that's very common sometimes. And
Yeah.
so, so I produced the soundtrack. It's called Pixel Skeptic, and is
Mhm.
on the Pixel Car Racer game.
So you had like a dynamic duo. You got the music, and your brother's got the like graphic
Yeah,
design. That's awesome.
yeah.
See that? It's like when you have people around you that can do like creative stuff, it makes it easier to make this creative brand or stuff like that. Now, when did you know you wanted to make that brand? When were you like, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. I'm gonna have my own brand. We're gonna make music. When did that start?
I think. But where? Vital Landscape or my personal brand?
Personal
Because
brand.
it's like personal brand. Okay. So when I turned 18, like a year ago,
Yeah.
I just yeah, I just decided, hey, I truly must make money, or I must make something awesome. So I think from there,
I like that. I must make something awesome.
yeah.
Now, what sets you apart from, let's say, other people who are doing the same thing you're doing now? Like, what do you do that's different?
I think that a lot of music composers or video game music composers are very kind of just for the money, right? I know
Mhm.
that I mentioned, literally just in a few seconds, I must make money, but I didn't knew how, right?
Mhm.
I just when I started Virtual Landscape, I just didn't start for the money. In fact, I didn't have a PayPal account until a year ago, and so all the stream revenue from Virtual Landscape, it was like I didn't touch it. So it was like right now we have or I have like over 300,000 streams on Spotify, but I didn't touch any of that, before.
Mhm.
It was because I didn't have a PayPal account, so it wasn't because of the money. And I think that is the difference. I just truly love games, and I love the design of them. I love the music, especially. That's what I think
Mhm.
it makes me different. And also I know the culture too.
So I'm guessing you were a big gamer when younger.
Yeah, big gamer.
Well, some of your favorite games.
Mega Man
Mega
2, Mega
Man.
Man 4. Yeah, I think I didn't grow out so much with like the PS3, PS4, things like that. So I have this cool console. It was like a PS1. I didn't know how. I don't know if that was like a hack that it had. Like you could play the NES games. So it has like I didn't know it was from my brother. So it had like Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3, Mega Man 4, Super Mario 3, and that's
This is on
maybe why I love.
PS1.
Yeah, yeah, it was crazy.
Oh, he must have jailbroken it, but that's weird. I've never heard of that.
I've never
Yeah,
heard of that. Oh,
Yeah.
well.
It was like a CD, and you put it, and it has all the games. Maybe that was piracy. I don't know.
Dang.
No,
You're
at
breaking
the
the
time,
law. Yeah.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
yeah,
I
but
know, we're
at
just kidding.
the time, at the time I didn't know. So, but I just play it. I'm
That's
against. I'm against piracy, of course, but at the time I didn't know.
But yeah, I never really played the Mega Man games, but I'm assuming the music inspired you a lot.
Yeah, Mega Man music is just amazing.
And so I gotta listen to some later because I want some
Yeah.
inspirational juices like that. Now, for going into game dev, was that like, did you know you wanted to do game dev stuff, or somebody just come to you and say, "Hey, can you do music for the games?"
Mostly like the second option. Like there was like I was very inspired by this chiptune music, this chiptune kind of sounds, and then the studio kind of approach, just like, hey, just I really have a cool game, and you make very small music for what I want. So can you make this? And that was it.
Okay. And what do you mean by cheap tunes? Like just like cheap to buy?
Chip tune.
What?
Oh, chip tunes. Oh, my bad. Well, what does that mean, Zoe?
It's like the music that you get in retro video games, so
Mm.
like quite sort of that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was that was the music in old games because there was
No, it
only
was, yeah.
processing power. But it's got I'm sure you agree, Louis, a particular aesthetic to it, which is really interesting. And like quite versatile to work with, that it's kind of timeless in a way, but it was started being this sort of smaller kind of variety of music that you could implement into these games because of the processing power. So yeah, chip tune. I don't know why it's called chip tune. Maybe because it was on one chip or something.
Yeah, I don't know too. So I just like
No idea.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Now I want to know how you when did you make that Legend of Zelda theme? I think it's on a YouTube channel. I forgot which one was it called? The
Mind
one
Team Remix.
I think
the
so.
Legend of Zelda
Yeah,
remix.
got like it's like people. I put all the comments. They're like, "This is so good. Like this needs more views." And I was like, "I think Louis
Yeah.
made this."
Yes, I made it. I was like 15 maybe,
You were
and I
15.
just
You made
wanted
that.
to.
Dang.
Yeah, I just decided I just want to make the best Zelda remix ever, and that was it.
So how long did it take you to make that?
Oh, maybe like 16 hours. Maybe the
Really?
project. I don't. Yes,
Okay.
but I don't know. Maybe I had like maybe 1 or 2 weeks making it, like various hours per day. But I don't know why it took so long.
16 hours
Yeah.
is not long.
Ah, okay.
I would say.
Yes,
Right.
because
I feel like it's short, but it
because
also feels long. I don't make music, so I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, to me it's like right now it's like it feels like it's a long time because right now it's like I just make a song literally in just 3 hours and it's really cool, in my opinion, of course.
I would say that's awesome. I think that was what took you what, like 10 years of work to get there,
Mm.
right? You've been doing it since you were, or no, you said 7 or 9? No, 9, right?
And yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, I think you develop a skill. It's like Picasso, right? I don't know if you know this story where Picasso, make like a sketch in just 5 minutes, and the lady for a lady, and the lady asked how much is it. So he just tell that is like $10,000, something like that,
Mhm.
and she is like, oh my goodness, but just 5 minutes, just 20 seconds there. Yeah, but I just worked for over 50 years to
Oh,
arrive in
yes.
this level, so it was crazy.
I love that quote. But it goes like hand in hand. So it goes one way, it's like for people who are learning, it's like, yeah, it takes time, so be patient about it. But then once you do make it, it's like, know your worth. Like, you've been working on this forever, and if it's really, like, you perceive as really good, and like, yeah, like, it's worth this much because I've spent so much time to be able to do something like this.
Mm.
Now, since I don't know much about like creating music, what is the process like? Like, how would somebody go from like I want to learn how to make music to starting to make their like really small tunes?
I think first you have to like it. You know, if you're just making music for the fame or something like that, or for the streams, or because it's cool, because I had some friends that recently, not recently, but like 2 years ago, was like learning to make like trap beats, and it was like because it was getting cool, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, come on, I have been making this in this same software for over, I don't know, maybe 7 years that when at that time, and so the first thing is just liking it, and the second thing is just being kind of obsessed with it, because it's like art or video games or coding. I don't know how it's with coding. Maybe it's almost like the same,
No, it's
but
just
it's
it's
like
obsessed. Yeah, I'm.
it's being
Oh.
obsessed. You just like it and just want to. In the case of music, just want to listen to that and make it sound amazing. Maybe with code, it's just like, oh, I want to make it function really cool, and it's just being obsessed. And I think it's the first step is just always liking it.
Mm-hmm. No, it's really true. Like, especially if you want to get really good, because I've played around with different stuff, and I can get okay at some things, but to get to your level, get to anybody's level where it's like you're really good, you got to be obsessed. You even have to make so many sacrifices to be like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this, and this up so that I can focus on this. And that's another thing too. So
Yeah.
how like did you make any sacrifice when younger? Were you like, hey, I'm not gonna be able to go to this event or party because I have to now make music or study or something?
Yes. So I met a lot. I just had really cool friends. So they they were on parties a lot. So because I was teenager, I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to go, but at the same time, just like, nah, I prefer just to make music. I just prefer to, instead of going to a party like and hanging around and uh just being there. I just want to make music, and I just want to get early and get up early tomorrow, Saturday. Let's say that the party is on Friday. I
Mm-hmm.
want to get up early and make music instead of just going to a party.
It's beautiful. It's again, it's the difference between some people. Now, I'm not saying you can't go to parties. Eventually, you could be like, oh, I'll go tonight. But like the idea that's like I want to do this instead of that because this is more important to me, and I think it's gonna pay off in the end.
Yeah.
Now let's get into the studio job. How do you pronounce that? It's Furukawa. There we go. I knew that.
So as I told you, I was like producing music for Virtual Landscape under the name of Virtual Landscape, and then this studio approaches with the idea of Pixel Car Racer, and I just made the music of it. That's basically it.
Okay. And then is that the same one that did like the Nintendo Switch? Did they make a game for the Switch?
Awesome. So I cannot talk a lot about that because it's still like in process.
Oh, okay.
But
Secret.
Yeah.
yeah,
Making money moves. There we go.
yes.
He's like, yes, no more.
You know when it's
That's
money
right.
moves when they're making you sign like a non-disclosure agreement. That's
Yeah,
when you
it really is. You're like,
serious. When you're not allowed to say anything legally. So it's all good. That's a good move. So how did they contact you? Like, had they seen your work previously and they like got in touch with you over email? What was the process of them finding you?
At that time, it was, SoundCloud was a very good place to upload your music. It was like 2016 when I made the Pixel Car Racer soundtrack. So I was 15. So SoundCloud, it was a really cool place to upload electronic music, chiptune music, and this stuff. So I was just uploading on SoundCloud, on YouTube, and all of these other platforms. And there were like a group. I remember when SoundCloud had groups, there was like a chiptune group, and I always submitted the music to that. So maybe that's where they find me, and then they message me in the platform in SoundCloud. So it was really cool.
Yeah, and that's like when SoundCloud was having its heyday, because it sort of
Yeah.
it sort of dwindled a little bit now, but it was definitely a time where it was like in its golden era where people were really using it. That's really interesting that they found you on there. I mean, that's what putting your, like, if you put your work out there, then it will be found if it's good quality. Well, that's what I think anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put your stuff out there. All your GameDev.tv students, your work, just keep posting it. I promise you, it's not as bad as you think. It's better. For a second, I'm gonna mention all the. I go to the forum on the GameDev.tv and I look at like people's work. Right. There's a lot of people's work where it's like, it's starting out work, right? So it's like they don't expect it to be good, and I understand. But it's like there's a lot of like my work, it's pretty bad, but like I like feedback, or like I wasn't gonna post it, but like I'm gonna post anyways, and it's just like be confident in your work and be confident in the fact that you're starting out. Like most people aren't doing what you're doing. So like for all you guys who were like this isn't good enough, it's great, it's awesome. Keep going though. Keep making new stuff. Keep learning from people's feedback. I promise you, you'll one day get to the point where you're like, you know what, you're right. It is awesome, and you're producing amazing work, and people are reaching out to you.
Mhm.
So
That is
now,
right.
Luis, what motivates you? Like what makes you want to create music all the time? Do you want to like empower people? Do you just like the process of making music? What is your why?
Well, that is a profound question.
Yes.
I truly like just to create music. It's just something I don't know. It's just like why did you code? Right? It's like I just like it. Just I
That's
like
true.
the process. I love to get into the software and just make some chord progressions, make some drums, and just the overall process. I love it, and I think I express something that maybe people can relate, and maybe that's why I truly just like the process, and I don't know, I just really love it.
Hmm. That's a great answer. So now I want to get more technical about some stuff. So when you're like day to day, like what was your like day like when you were making music when you were younger? Like when you woke up really early, what was it like?
Awesome. When I was 9, this is the crazy thing because I have like 10 years producing music, but only 5 years with Bachelor Landscape, and less than a year because this is the new artistic name that I have created like maybe on April. That is now called Lufus. Now my artistic name is not Bachelor Landscape, but Lufus. So, so it's very early. It's very early. But my process was like when I was with Bachelor Landscape, it was like I was going to high school. So I wake up like at 6 a.m.,
Mm-hmm.
have class at 7 a.m., arrive like 12 p.m., like in the mid afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
and then go to class to 1 p.m. again and arrive at 5 p.m. So it was a little bit crazy. And but after that, because you have almost all the classes in the school, I just didn't have so much homework. So from like 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. I was making music
Okay.
or something related to Bachelor Landscape.
And then where was this? Was this in Venezuela?
Yes.
Okay. And what high school did you go to? It was like was it like just a regular high school?
It was a Catholic high school. So yeah.
Okay. Then when you're going to do your music, what you open up the software and you just play around with stuff? What is the like technical stuff about what you're doing? Oh, did we lose him?
No,
Nope,
Oh no, here you are. Okay.
he's still here.
I'm just thinking.
Oh, you're good.
But yeah,
My thing
I
froze,
think
so I didn't know.
yeah. I think I just got inspired by maybe something that I listened to or by a piece of art, and then I play around with it and just create music, create a song, create the drums, everything.
Then because like I'm just trying to like put pieces together. Like if I were starting like today, how could I like make something decent? It'd be like would I just be able to just play around with like is it easy to understand the software?
Yes, I mean maybe I think maybe some people on the game dev can to provide value for them. I think yes, first I think understanding your software is very important. I think knowing the shortcuts to have a great workflow, knowing what you're doing and learning always because there are new updates, or not only new updates but also learning about music because it's like it's never ending. It's not
Mhm.
just like oh I just learned music 5 years ago, and now I'm a genius, and everything just comes easy. I'm learning always. So I think the process it's easy or easier once you kind of understand the fundamentals first of music, and first and second of the tools that you're using, right? Like the software, what how can I make drums? How can I make pads? How can I make pianos? What things are new? How can I add saturation, etc.
Okay. And then, what was the YouTube videos you watched, so that anybody can follow them? What were they? What were they called?
Oh, I don't know if it exists anymore, but I'm very sure that they are new right now. So, for example, right now I watch some of the new YouTube content of Kyler Beats. They are beat making stuff, but they are really good because you can learn how they make music, and you can just understand the basics and how they make music and what they think when making it. I think it's really cool. That is one. Maybe I don't know. I truly just don't remember so much. But if you right now is if you go to YouTube and you just go and type how to make video game music, maybe you have like, for example, there's a really cool friend that is named the name of him is Akash. I don't know if you know him. Akash that audio. He has made the sound design of Hyperdrift Shifter. I don't know if that is the game, right? And so it's really cool. He has a YouTube channel of sound design, and I'm very sure that right now are even more.
Mm. Have you ever taught anybody how to make music?
I think I don't. I think it's kind of weird. I just don't feel like a teacher so much. Like
Mhm.
maybe someday, but I don't know. I just like to make it. But I don't know. I don't know. I just don't. I think I have teach some of the people, like maybe some other composers, right? Uh, Provide them feedback, but maybe not teaching them like a course. Maybe in the future I will make one, but yeah.
Okay.
What software do you use?
FL Studio 20.
Okay. And have you dabbled in doing sound design as well? Have you tried your hand at making sound effects and doing Foley and those kind of things, or have you just stayed purely in music?
I also make sound design, but it's not like my forte, like the one that I love the most, right? It's like it's really cool, but it's not what I love the most. So,
Yeah.
but yes, I do.
It's especially like early stages. You're like the two things, the composition and the sound design tend to get like lumped together into one role. So a lot of people end up doing both and having like a little hand in both. But like obviously they interlink and they build on each other, and like a lot of composers do have skills in sound design. It is interesting. It is a good thing to have for sure. Is there any games that really inspire you in terms of the sound design? Or what do you find interesting?
Oh, so I think the games that have inspired me the most in sound design, both in sound design and music, I think like the retro ones, Mega Man. I love Mega Man music. It's just crazy. Just jazzy, it's blues, and it's amazing. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which is like I'm like a promoter of that game because it's just the best. Yeah, it's just the best fighting game ever made.
Is it really? I've never played it.
Oh man, for me it's the best.
What do you play it on?
That was on PlayStation 1. That
Oh,
was legal.
dang.
So, yeah.
Not with the crazy
So-
disc that had everything on it.
Yeah,
Not yet.
not yet.
No.
That was for the PlayStation 1, and later on I had a PS2, and I played the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 there. So it's really cool. See, I think both of those games, like, it's really wow. And of course, some others like Mario and Zelda and others.
So you're really big fan of retro game, like very sort of old school games. That's really interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Would you consider working on like a massive AAA title? Like where you have access to orchestras and all those kind of things. Would that be something that would interest you, or do you prefer staying sort of in the realm of the electronic? Like,
I think I will be interested, right? Like in something like Hayao Miyazaki soundtrack from Studio Ghibli, something like that. That would be
yes,
awesome.
that would be amazing.
So I really love all kind of music. It's not only electronic, because of course that is like my strong kind of muscle, just to say it that way. But that would be cool, like being like a composer of Ghibli films or something like that.
That would be amazing. That particular sort of style and that kind of style of music that's attributed to Ghibli films is so amazing and powerful, and it's just so evocative. And you do see a lot of, especially like anime and movies and TV just doing amazing things with music. And yeah, it would be an amazing thing to be able to have like an orchestra at your fingertips, especially with a game, because you can just be so experimental with it, for sure.
Yes.
That sounds amazing. Just having like the whole orchestra in your hands, just being able to do whatever you want. I need that. I want that. I want to be able to like, make games like a AAA. Oh, one day.
Okay. If that's what you want, because it's not everybody's.
Yeah.
It's not everybody's end point that they maybe would want to do a AAA title, but I mean, I'm sure it would be amazing. But I guess you have more freedom with smaller projects. So with the first project that you were spotted for, did they literally lift your music and just put it into the game? So there was no like process of changing it round before it was put into the game. It was just like lifted in, and that was it. You didn't have to do any more editing or work to change it.
And in Pixel Car Racer,
Yeah.
yes, it was like, oh, I love this song, and let's put it in the game. I think it fits perfectly. Right now, of course, it's a little bit different, because it's like I have some feedback from the game developers. So it requires some changes, but at that time it was like, this is it, you know.
Oh, so they just felt like it fit the project so well that they just put it right in. That's really unusual, because usually I suppose they found your work as a thing that was just independent, but it's really unusual that they just be like, we're taking it and we're putting it in and we're not going to modify it or change it. They must have really, really thought it fit what they were doing well. That's amazing. I've never heard of that ever happening before. That's really cool.
Hot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's wearing a hoodie. Is it not winter time for you?
Oh, true.
Yeah, it's like
True.
It's like winter.
Yeah.
He's wearing.
Yeah, but it's not like.
Yeah. Sometimes I wear a hoodie because the AC is too cold. But
it's
I don't know. We were
like,
just talking about. What were you saying?
It's like winter, but with tropical feelings. I don't know how to explain that.
Winter with feelings. That's the new EP title. So with tropical feelings.
Winter. Tropical. Wait, is it winter with feelings or?
Winter with tropical feelings.
Hey, I like that. Okay.
That is the one.
That's the one. That's your Christmas EP.
Yeah.
That's the one.
So,
where were we?
well, yes, I was asking about the studio job. If they ever like brought you into the studio and was like make music for us.
Oh no, it was all online. You know,
Okay.
It wasn't like on a local studio. Maybe in the future, but it was like all online.
Okay. And he's still working at a studio. Nothing wrong with that.
So you've always worked remotely, presumably, or have you been to the studios that you've worked with?
That is a good question, because from right now, I have always been working remotely, like online, because I'm on Latin America, so it's like these studios are generally from like the United States, or Studio for Kawa, for example, is based on Hawaii. So yes, mostly remotely.
You know what's crazy?
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect for you.
it's perfect for you because of Corona. Like it's like you were made
Yeah.
for this age of remote working, which is honestly what it should be, because then you can travel anywhere and still do your work.
Yeah, that's
Essentially.
true.
Yeah. Now let's get into the BitNow landscape. That is, it says you're a co-creator. What is this?
Yes.
Your brother,
It's like,
right?
Hey, you and your brother, right?
yes, it was like I made music with my brother. Not with my brother. My brother doesn't make music, but he actually make the art. So everything visual was like made of, he made it, and I made the music.
Okay. And so your main goal is like to empower gamers with music.
Yeah, I think so. But I think with the time it has changed. I think it's just expressing my music and something that people can relate to, especially gamers, maybe because it's like inspired on video game music. But not also empowered, but music also there's also sad music, for example, and maybe a person can relate to that,
Mm-hmm.
and so yes.
Interesting. So like I know it's funny because we have a podcast, but like you've made this thing called Podfrog, right?
Yes.
And you're over here making money moves with big podcast people, right? And big names. And
Yes, Podrock is a very new thing. It's like my new company. It's very small. It's very early right now, but it's basically a podcast agency where you can observe. Podfrog is like a podcast agency where you outsource your podcast. Basically, we free you from podcasting. It's like you record and you just send this to us, and that's it. That's all you have to do. And we update like systems. We have systems like trackers that if you want to check out the current state of a podcast, of your podcast, if it's editing or if it's recorded or if it's like already scheduled, you can check out that, but you don't have to go to an editing software because that's really painful. It's really it's like putting the music, putting the audio. It's like it's just crazy.
yeah. Now, how did you get this start? So you say like, hey, where did you get the idea to start that?
It was because when I started like freelancing when I was like 18, like maybe 1 month and a half ago, I met this person, Mark Metry, which is now one of my best friends. He's like a best-selling author, first feature entrepreneur, and I made music for him, and I made the intro of his podcast. Humans 2.0 is like a top 100 podcast, and we were talking about, and I just had the idea of because I before of the idea, I started a podcast called Game Music, something like that. It was I don't even remember. It was like it was
How many
something
episodes you
like
had? Like two?
Pile with the other ideas.
yeah, it didn't work. I just forget it. uh, it was like game music with Luis Quintero. I actually just don't remember, but it was basically about game music. And but it was so painful, because I had to edit the podcast. I have to, just do a lot of things besides of just creating music and having clients and things like that. It was very painful. It was a lot of work, and I just didn't like it. So maybe also podcasters stops their progress because of that. It's a lot of work.
It is a
So
lot of yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. So that's why I started.
Wait, so I mean, do you do any of the editing, or so like do you have a team who like edits their stuff, adds the music in, and you're just kind of like, I made it. This is what we're doing. I'm gonna get the people to like bring their podcast on.
That is a good question. So in the first, I made it like I edited podcasts, but with the time, I just don't like to
Oh
edit
yeah, that's what I
podcasts.
thought. Because I was like, you don't like it, but you're like, I'm gonna do other people's.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and compared to other people that edit podcasts and they love to clean up an episode, they love to you know put the music, take out some words. I just don't like. I just want to make music, So I just decided to, okay, I will give this to other people that truly like this and that they do excellent work, and I just will outsource it. I will meet the people that want to outsource the podcast, and they will having a team is more like uh, I think I prefer that.
So you have like a team of people.
Yes.
Now look at you. What are some of the podcasts that you've worked on? 'Cause I think you saw you post something with like some very like influential entrepreneur, and I was like, dang. I thought you did the podcast with them. I was like, look at you.
Yes. So I have edited podcast for Mark Metry, which is
Mhm.
like the entrepreneur I just told you. He made Humans 2.0 is the podcast. Also, Says the J by Sarah Holloway. It's from Australia. She has interviewed Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you know
Oh,
Gary Vaynerchuk.
what? No way. That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. She has interviewed Gary Vaynerchuk and a lot of big people. Mark Manson, Mark Metzer, for example, with Humans 2.0. He has interviewed Seth Godin, all of these marketing entrepreneurial names, which I love too. And also Breaking It Down by Mitchell Falcon. That is a very new podcast, and it's based on Canada, and it's about entrepreneurial things, and things like that. So that are the main three shows that I love to highlight because it's so common and it's so relatable. You know.
That's all. Those are big names. It's pretty cool. So now I'm trying to like relate all this to like, let's say open up your own game dev studio or whatever. But like, what what is the process like for opening up your agency? Is it like getting a business license, hiring like a lawyer, or doing certain things, or just you making your work, and then you do that at one point where you're like, okay, we need to step it up. We're making money.
Awesome. So I don't think that you need to have like a licensee for outsourcing work because when you have the team, you already, you know, it's like you already have everything. So as
Mhm.
long as you kind of contract also other freelancers, uh, it's like cool. So that's basically the process.
Okay. And then, how much time do you spend on like your brand or your team for Podfrog? Is that like, does it take a lot of time, or is it just like you set it up at the beginning and it now kind of just works itself?
Yes, I think you set it up at the beginning, like you have the right systems, like maybe let's say that a podcast send me a new episode.
Mhm.
So what I do is like send in the instructions, and because we have a system that have like the episode title and the current state, like is it edited yet? Is it uploaded? And I think it's more. It takes very few, like not even an hour per episode. Like just contacting and having the feedback is just super easy.
Mhm. And what software do you use to keep that all together? Do you like use Notion or something?
Awesome. So I use various. I use like Trello. But the thing that I love the most, and I think the one that have more flexible tools because it's super easy to do, is Google Sheets. It's very basic, but yeah, it's super basic. But you have all the processes and all of that kind of the systems in that place. For example, with Google Sheets, I have something like a three option thing, like it is edited, recorded, or it's already scheduled. So the team updates that, and it's very easy to work with that.
Yeah, those documents are really good. What were you saying, Zoe?
I was just saying that sounds really straightforward. So part of getting people to use your service is that it's easy to use. Like that's so important because if it looks kind of big and scary for just like a regular sort of person, they're just not gonna engage with it. But if it looks sort of easy to use and it is easy to use, it's always better. Yeah, I would agree. It's always a good idea.
Now,
Yes,
do you do any marketing for Podfrog?
because it's very early. I think I'm just sticking with LinkedIn content mostly,
Mm-hmm.
and very soon I will have a podcast, so it will be super awesome.
Oh, you starting your own podcast
Yes, it's
again?
going to
Oh,
be.
there you
Yeah,
go. You're getting your team now to edit and stuff. You're like, I don't like all that stuff, but I'll come on.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah. I started first like two podcasts, one of the game music that I just told you, but I just didn't like it because it was like a solo podcast. So it was like me talking for 25 minutes, right? It's like what? But then I started another podcast called Super Game Composer, something like that, and it was with a friend that also composed music for video games. But it was like he didn't like it a lot. I also didn't enjoy to talk just about video game music, and so nah, it's not. So this one is going to be awesome. Uh, I think that this one is going to be the long one. The one that will stick around with.
What makes it different?
I think the brand and that it has a better targeted audience. What I mean by that is like it's not just people that is interested in video game music or just composers of music. It's like this will be for creators or creatives that that create art or create music, and we talk about creativity. That is the main concept of the podcast. Is about
Mm.
creativity, and it's a little bit more broad, but not also like just one thing. It's not how to get paid by doing pixel art, something like just one thing. It's very limited. So I decided to expand into more creators, like for example you guys, or let's say some pixel artists on Twitter that want to listen to something really awesome, to know how to step up their creativity and how to do other things like that.
No, I think it's a great idea. If you just say limitation only is creativity, then you're set because it's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's cool. So when do you plan to start like releasing that? What's the timeline for that one?
For now, it's like in the end of the year. I plan to release in the end
Okay.
of the year, so I can have a lot of guests pre-scheduled. Because a mistake that I learned from in the past is was like I just started my new podcast and first episode, and I just recorded the first episode, and now it's scheduled or published. So it was like, oh, it's better to actually have like 8 episodes, 4 to 8 episodes ahead planned, and put it out there and schedule them.
Oh, yeah, that's good advice. I
Yeah.
don't do that at all. But sometimes I'll have like hidden episodes where I'm like, oh, we don't got one this week. I got one, but no, we're very consistent, so it's good. But I'm curious. What was like one of your biggest mistakes you've made in the last like 5 years, and how did you overcome that?
The biggest mistake I think was not sticking around with music. Was one of the biggest mistake. And
What do you
and
mean?
yeah, that is crazy. What do you mean by if you have been always making music? Yeah,
Yeah, like what do you mean?
yeah, it's like God. It's just like doubting to not making music.
Mm.
So it's like that is crazy. I think that is the biggest mistake I made. Also, I think the biggest mistake that I did make was like when I started my new name, my personal brand. Aside from Vital Landscape, I wanted to change Vital Landscape to myself. That was a huge mistake because the fans of Vital Landscape didn't want it to see me. Not in the bad way.
Yeah, I got you.
But they love the Vital Landscape brand. I don't know if you know this story of the Coca-Cola with the new Coke and things like that.
Oh
So
no, what happened?
okay, so in like 1980, maybe it's 1980, sometime around that, Pepsi was like with the new generation kind of marketing campaign, and it was they were kind of dominating the market of soft drink. So Coca-Cola decided to create the new Coke. And when they created the new Coke, it was very different from the Coca-Cola that we know. It was like a Coke for the new generation, something like that. A lot of people hated. It was like a lot, like $10 million wasted on marketing.
So
So
why did they not like
translate,
it? It was a different
it,
taste, or just
yes, it was different taste, and it was not Coca-Cola. It was like because Coca-Cola is generally made for nostalgia, right? If you look at the Coca-Cola ads, it's like to be with family, to be with in Christmas. But when they do the new Coke, it was like for the new generation, and it was a different taste, and people hated that. It was like more Pepsi, and they don't want it a Pepsi. They
Mhm.
want it. They don't want it a better Pepsi. They wanted just Coca-Cola, just the one that they already know. So translating that into my mistake was like very similar. I had Vital Landscape for like almost 5 years at that time. I was 18, and I decided to change everything, right? So from Vital Landscape to Luis Quintero, and it wasn't like a good response because my fans were like, I actually just don't like it. I love that you make the music. I love to meet you, but I just want Bytron Landscape Brown. I just don't want to see a human because, for example, Bytron Landscape, it was like changing Mario to the creator of Mario. It's like changing
Yeah.
all the character. It is not good. So I just changed it anyway, but it was very it was very painful. I just, oh my goodness, maybe they are right? So I just changed it back to Bytron Landscape again, and I just
Wow.
let that bounce.
Wow, that's crazy. But yeah, history lesson for all of us. And that actually happened, I think, 1985. I looked it up. It was horrible. It was the worst thing they could ever done. I was like, well, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Or yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I want to know how you got over the doubt. Did you just keep making music, and then you're like, I'm good now, or did you just like mentally like fight? How did you get over that?
What is the question?
How did you get over doubt?
That is a good question. I think by knowing the truth or by asking yourself, what is the truth?
Mm.
And what I mean by that is like, the truth is always only one. It's like you can have very different cultures, you can have very different backgrounds, you can come from different countries, but the truth is always only one. Is what this is going to sound like woo woo or like a little bit emotional, something like that, but it's what your heart tells you.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is like I knew from the beginning that I love music. So when I'm not making music, I just feel so tired. I don't know why, but I just don't feel like I'm in my element. So the doubt comes by recognizing the truth. So for example, let's say that just to provide value to a game dev student, let's say that maybe is starting a new game, right? Maybe someone just like having self doubt in I don't know if I could make it. I don't know if it's etc. I don't know if how to make it. And I think just a really cool thing that I do is to write it on your computer, write those thoughts right in your computer, or write it on paper. So and then you ask yourself like, is this truly truth or this is just a perspective? If someone had made it, why not you? Why not I? So I think that's why truth is the most important. I don't know if that makes sense.
Does, yeah.
Yeah, I like that answer a lot. And what
Keeping
were you saying,
keep
Zoe?
an eye on those sort of thoughts going around your head, those doubtful thoughts, is so important, because if they like live in here and they're not out here, it's a whole different story if they're living in your head, but you want to put them out there so you can tackle them and actually question them. Like, questioning those kind of thoughts is really important, which is what I think you're saying. So important. Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to think, for sure. Sorry, you're 19? What?
Yes.
Were you always like this?
How?
Let's see. Ambitious, inspirational. Yeah.
I think so, but I don't know. Maybe I think so, but yeah, I think so because in when I was in high school, I was like the guy that people kind of, hey, Luis, give me advice or something like that. So it was, I think so. Yeah.
It's nice to be that person. It's also a burden in a way, but it is nice to be that person, for sure. Yeah, I get you.
Well, how can it be a burden? What do you mean?
Well, people come to you with your problems, so you take a little bit of those things away with you always, is kind of what I think anyway. So, yeah, so you carry a little bit of the advice you're giving, you carry a little bit of what they're giving back to you with you. So it can be a little bit of a burden.
Well, yes, but at the same time, no, because when you know the truth, again, that's why I say that the truth is like the most important thing. So when you know that these kind of limiting thoughts or self doubt, you know that they are not true. So why they don't affect me? So why? Yeah. So it's like that. I don't know how to if that makes
It's
sense.
your
Yeah,
armor.
it does. It does.
No, I get it. Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
It's like my favorite quote from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, I was gonna ask you too. Is there any shows or movies that inspire you besides games?
movies, I think. Oh my God. Oh, Whiplash is a very cool movie. It's about jazz. It's amazing. I love that movie. And of course, there have to be like more movies. Like I don't know, maybe some other like La La Land is a really cool movie. It's love. It's romantic movie, but it's
Hmm.
really cool because the music is amazing.
Didn't it almost win something? I don't know. I didn't watch the movie, so I don't know the music.
Yeah, they win like a lot of Oscars.
Yeah. Okay.
There was this whole thing at the Oscars where so I forget what it was for. It was either best director or it might have been in best film, but they read out La La Land and it wasn't actually, they didn't actually win. It was a different film, so they were ready to get
What?
like actually you didn't win. It was really awkward. It was a couple of years ago. Oh, it was really awkward.
Wasn't that Steve Harvey, or was that
That's
something
crazy.
else? He needs to get it together.
Oh my days, it was awful. It was awful. Oh man, I'd forgotten
I
about
mean,
that.
it was like live, so it was a little bit crazy.
Ooh,
How
awful.
can you mess that up? Isn't it
Somebody
on the card?
Yeah, so I know why. Yeah, so the company that made the cards just messed up and gave them the wrong thing, and it even had like the wrong category on it, so it could have been stopped a couple of points.
He wasn't paying attention.
Uh,
Crazy.
Happens. I mean, even those kind of things, they have mistakes that happen, but that's like a big mistake. So I imagine probably someone lost their job over that, or a few people lost their jobs over that.
Yeah. Oh well. But no, but going to your like what is truth? So this quote, I love the quote. It just fits perfectly, but it's like the true mind can weather all the lies and illusions without being lost. The true heart can tough the poison of hatred without being harmed. Since beginningless time, darkness thrives in the void, but it always yields to purifying light. It's kind of like your little like, look, I know the truth, so like no matter what you throw at me, it's not gonna hurt me, or I'm not gonna see it in the way that you intended it to be seen, felt.
exactly. It's like
That's
it's like being on the storm with all the with all everything coming at you, but you know the truth, so you're standing tall.
dang, that's crazy. See, I feel like I've had to learn it, but you've like just had that.
Yeah, and with the time, of course. I think growing up with with few things kind of don't kind of let you be entitled.
Mm.
It's like I grew with almost nothing. I couldn't. My mother couldn't afford a piano, for example.
Yeah.
I really wanted to play a piano. But instead of that, I just made music on my computer that already were in my home. So, and I started, and this is crazy because when I was younger, my mother didn't also bought me some headphones so I can produce better music.
Hmm.
And it wasn't because she would love to, but the
Yeah.
crazy thing is that, of course, she couldn't. So what I did was like with the music, I also draw. So of course, it's not like my main thing, but I made draws for the people in the school, and maybe that's why maybe I'm a little bit more entrepreneurial too. But I made draws for the people, and they pay me like, and with that time I saved for the headphones, and
Yeah.
finally got my headphones. So it's
You're
like,
literally an entrepreneur at heart.
yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. Wow. Well, that was awesome. You're very inspirational. The music you're doing is great. The fact that you're doing all this while you're 19 is it's insane. But well, it was a pleasure having you on. But before we get to the end, I want to ask you a challenge for the GameDev.tv students. Make it like music related. Could be anything.
Awesome. So a challenge. First, who exactly is listening to this? Like
So
game developers, especially.
yeah, so it's a lot of it. There's like maybe a few that are pros, but most of it is like people who are literally like, I don't know how to make games, or I'm just starting, or it's like their first year, and they could be doing music. Most likely, this episode's gonna be geared to music people because I'm gonna make it like that. But it could be anybody: music people, programmers, 3D modelers, writers, anybody doing game development, or anybody just interested in making music.
A challenge is to make. Ooh, a challenge. Oh, let's see.
Fine,
Let's
take
see.
your
I
time, no
just want to.
worries. Hey,
I want to take this precious moment.
yeah, take this moment.
I think a challenge could be like doing something, doing the opposite of what you would do. And what I mean is like, it's not like doing not doing anything. Like if you're making a game, just don't do anything. I'm not mean that. I mean it's just like asking yourself if what if you do the opposite, right? Instead of making the game this way, what if you make this game in the opposite way? What I mean is not like not making it, but making it in a different perspective. So I think that is going to help you a lot. You know, like making something really like opposite from what you're doing, I think will really help. I don't know if that makes sense.
Different perspective.
Yeah, making a
Yeah.
different perspective. So it's like, let's say maybe you're making a shooter game. Maybe instead make like an 8-bit like platform game. Something totally
Oh,
left.
well, let's put that. Let's say that you're making a shooter game, right?
Okay.
Instead of having like a classical shooter, right?
Hmm.
What if you do the opposite? What if instead of you have to kill people, people are going to kill you? You know, that is what I mean.
Okay. I like that. I like that.
And you have
Like
to
you could
escape
do a
with
Mario
that.
game where you have to capture Peach instead of saving her.
Yeah,
like
yeah, something like
Nice.
that. So yeah.
Okay. I like it.
Oh, that-
Yeah, so is there anything you want to say, Zoe?
No,
That's
just
it. I'm very- Oh, sorry.
Well, let,
no.
let Zoe end it off because she never does.
Okay.
just that it was a pleasure speaking to you. Congratulations on all your good work, and I mean, you've obviously got a bright career ahead of you. I can't wait to see where you go. Really, it's going to be really interesting, and yeah, just like live it, own it. You deserve it. It's great. Thank you for talking to us.
Yep. And if there's anything else you want to say, any shout outs, inspirational quotes, anything, we hand the mic to you. And thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. Oh, so if you want to listen to my music, of course, you can search on Google Biton Landscape. Yeah, it's like Bitonal Landscape. And you can find me on all the platforms, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere. And if you want to know more about me and my personal brand, which is Lufus, you can search me on Instagram. I am Lufus at I am Lufus, and you can see all my stuff. Also, you can go to my website if you're interested on gaming music or game music. I am Lufus.com/game music, and you can see all the work that I have made.
Well, that's it. Thanks for listening. You can find all GameDev.tv courses at courses.GameDev.tv/courses or in the show notes with a 10% discount. Get started with your game development journey today.